Okay, what we're going to do in this step is add some interactivity to the map. So what we have right now is when we run this thing, is it centers it centers here with this zoom level, and you can zoom out, you can zoom in. It's your basic Slippy map, right? And you can look at the layers if you want. You can change that. I mean, most people I think will kind of be able to figure out how to interact with this. But what I'd like to do is add. So I'm going to go. I think it's under rudiments, under in additive color, exploring additive color. The app we're making is a little bit different than this one, but I want you to add this thing to the app where you can move and direct the attention into here. And this is, I think, pretty helpful. It's not quite the kind of the Burns effect of being able to zoom in slowly, but you want to be able to kind of focus people's attention on different parts of the map, and that's what I've kind of set up here. And that's helpful when you are kind of interpreting. And again, if you go to the to this, that's kind of what is driving most of my narrative here is about these different patterns that the select list will get you to. So that's what we want to add is this little, it's called the select widget. And and I've given you most of the code for it. So if we go to the worked out examples again, go to app design, go to the select widget, you should just be able to copy this thing. And then we're going to go over here. And I think the first trick is to kind of know where to paste this, because let me just talk through the code here. There's a little dictionary I'm giving you that has the name of something, and then a list of the longitude, the latitude, and the zoom level. And so the idea is, let me just open this thing up as a new tab. So what we're doing here is the name is going to appear in the list, the drop down, and then when you click on this, what happens is that by selecting a name from the drop down, you wind up over here. Here's the keys are these things that are going to be the items in the drop down list. The placeholder is just going to be the name that appears by default before so the placeholder is going to say explore a pattern, and then these are going to be the keys. And then we'll worry about the style later because we have to define it. And then when you click one of these things, it fires a function that I've written for you, which says take the small m and set the center so that it's going to go patterns, key, whatever you take, use that longitude, use that latitude, use that zoom level. Is that fair? So that's going to allow you to kind of like zoom around this thing. And so I'm saying all that because the trick is that we are making something that we need to add to this side panel, but affect this map. So it's basically, we need to add it to this widget and it's going to affect this widget. So where do you paste this code that to make this thing, right? Because we had been, and so here's what I'm going to suggest is let's put this at the very end after we've created the map. The small m map needs to be a thing in your script because this is going to call it right there. And then we're going to use this method of, rather than adding, we're going to insert this this thing called select pattern, right? So we're going to insert this thing into our side panel based on the index 3. And the idea is that, well, this is the first thing, that's the first widget in our list. And it really kind of goes back to this list here. So it's a list, and remember, like, the first thing in the list is going to have the index 0. So by saying 3, what we're saying is 0, 1, 2, 3. Make this thing the third widget in this list. and push everything else down. Is that fair? So if I just run this, what that now should do is it puts this explorer pattern as the third thing in our, sorry, it's actually if that's 0, that's 1, that's 2, and because remember, our instructions aren't there yet, and then there's that thing. So 0, 1, 2, 3. It's actually the fourth thing if you wanted to count 1, 2, 3, but for whatever reason, the indexes always start with 0, so call it 3. Is that fair? And if I said that this was going to be 5, where do you think it would go? Down there, right? In between this and this. So we're going to say, please insert it there. And that's one way of kind of adding widgets to the panel after you've already kind of created the list of it's basically inserting something to that list. Okay, so that's what I did there. Um, and what we now have is this thing that's custom set up for you so that if you click Aurora, it's going to zoom in there. If you click Red Giant, it's going to go over to the shale. If you click political lines, it's going to go there. Is that fair? And so all this is doing is taking this dictionary, using the keys as the names for the things that appear in this list, and then it's taking uh, this list and it is using that to set the center, which is something that we've done a lot. So hopefully not too much of a wrangle. The last thing is, can we affect the style of this thing? And there's a couple of things that bother me. One, it doesn't line up right. It's kind of sitting far over there. And so let's try to, so it's sitting far over. I'd like it to maybe see if we can take up this whole panel. Let's just try to affect the style of this. And partly I just want to show you guys that this is not too crazy to do. So maybe slightly crazy, but not too difficult to do. So I'm just going to say, okay, let's make the padding here. And I want it to inherit the padding of everything else in this. So I'm going to say whatever we defined for our typeface way back here, up here, we had some padding here so that all of our labels wind up being 12 points from the panel. So let's just say use that padding and make sure that that's a curly bracket at the end, and it should now have this lined up a little bit better. You can see that it's a little wonky. So let's see if we can continue doing this. Let's say that we want the margin to also be the same as the typeface margin. And does that help align it? Yeah, so now this is lining up better with that. Um, and this just gives it a professional look, in my opinion. I know that you guys are probably thinking that this is crazy detail oriented, but you know, design is actually pretty detail oriented. So for this, I'm going to say that the stretch I want horizontal, and what that's going to do is make this box like as big as here, and you may or may not like that, but I'm just going to do that to show you that that's another use of stretch. And let's get rid of that annoying background color. So we want that to be basically the same as uh, the typeface background color. And the reason I do that rather than black is that should we change our mind eventually and decide that we want all of our backgrounds to be, you know, something other like orchid. I don't think we will, but that's just going to do it all in in one, um, in one swoop. So it's just an easy way to kind of do one thing many, many times. It's just by referring back to that dictionary that contains it. And then I think that's about all that we can do here. I'm not sure we can affect the font family. And let's see if that would, that's just typeface sans, right? Um, so does that work? Does that change that to Helvetica? I don't know if we did anything there or there. I'm not sure that actually has an effect. But we've at least got this thing to kind of fit a little bit better. So that's just how you can style it, and it's up to you how much of that you think looks good for your apps. Um, but for this one, try to match it just so that I can see that you know how to do it. And great, now we've got a little interactivity built into this thing, right? And so I'm going to say save and then go on to the next bit.